Welcome to Call Before Showing, a podcast where we help real estate pros navigate the emotional ups and downs of the real estate business
and hear the stories of real people who buckle in and ride the roller coaster with us.
Are you ready? Let's go. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Call Before Showing podcast. This is Alison here with my co-host, Alex, and she is right here.
Hi.
And today we're going to be talking about expectation versus reality, about our first year, our rookie year in real estate. So we will be talking about the biggest things we learned, our most nerve-wracking experiences, and our absolute favorite things about our first year. Alex, what was your expectation when you were getting into the real estate business?
So I thought that it was a little bit more glamorous than it actually is. And I didn't realize that I was going to be doing so much more. And it wasn't just negotiating, it was paperwork. It was basically needing to know half of what a lender knows and half of what a contractor knows. And all of these other things. I did not realize I was going to be cleaning people's houses and, just all of the things that I would end up doing, which now I love. But actually, this is kind of a side question, but what's one of the weirdest things that you've done that you're like, how did I get here?
Oh, this one's a good one. So I had a listing that the seller had already moved across the country, and there was a last minute HOA violation because the HOA docs were coming in, and in the HOA docs, which were coming like a few days before closing, of course, they said that she had a violation for a fence post that was like leaning, and there was a hurricane coming, of course, to our area. So closing was going to be, I think it was like on a Friday. It was Tuesday that we found out that there was this violation, and the hurricane was coming on like Thursday. So like, of course, we wouldn't have time to get a contractor to come out. My sweet husband, who's very handy and like could probably be a general contractor if he didn't have a different full-time job. He's super talented at all of that stuff. We went to Home Depot and we dug out the rotten fence post that was quote unquote leaning, and we replaced it the night before the hurricane was going to be coming, and it was like at 9:30 at night.
Wow.
It was just like the biggest pain in the butt, and it was like a fence post that was leaning, but it was like leaning a quarter of an inch. It was kind of like, come on, HOA, come on, get a grip.
Yeah. Sometimes they just want to split hairs.
What about you though? I want to know what yours is.
I definitely did not build a fence. I had a seller that just did not realize how neat a house should be during a listing and was a little bit of a hoarder, but also not very clean. And so I had to clean the house, like deep clean 2 rooms. Just 2 rooms took all day so that I could have them come back and explain this is what the house should look like. And, they never really got the point. So I definitely ended up cleaning most of their house over the next couple weeks. Yeah, I just remember like scrubbing on my hands and knees and being like, this is so glamorous. I love my job.
I agree with you. Like, one of my expectations was like that everyone would have the money to like hire professionals to like do what they couldn't do or weren't willing to do. And that definitely has not been the case for a lot of my clients.
Yeah.
And yeah, I totally get the like expecting it to be like, $1 million listing on Bravo. And it's not, or at least not where I am.
And me and my partner, I remember she had, she'd been in the business for a while, so she had staging furniture. But we moved an entire house of furniture so many times because we would move it from listing to listing. And I just remember being like, wow, I think it's so fun because I love home decor and that part of it. So it was always really fun, but it was like we're moving an entire house of furniture like every 2 weeks. And it's a lot of work. Totally going off on a tangent. That's why staging is like so expensive. Plus, they need to have all of that stuff. But yeah, your average person can't afford that. And so if it's something you want to offer, like you're going to have to work your butt off to be able to deliver that kind of service.
Absolutely.
What was your expectation?
So I honestly thought that clients would magically appear. With my experience in the wedding industry, the way that people book weddings is completely different from the way that they search for a realtor. So basically, when I worked in the wedding industry, we would just get like lots and lots and lots of leads from like online avenues and things like that, or they would just call us directly. And so, like, my phone was like ringing off the hook all the time because they quickly interviewed several people. They made a decision. Where with real estate, it's very different in the way that people find their agents.
Yeah.
And I don't pay for any traditional, like, I don't pay for Zillow. I don't do any of those things. I try to focus on building my business by referral. And really, that came mostly out of necessity. Like, at the beginning, as a rookie, I didn't have a lot of cash to be paying to a huge conglomerate. My expectation was kind of like, oh, my phone will still be ringing off the hook like it was in the wedding industry. And that is very much not the case. You have to find it. You have to find those people to call you, and you kind of have to hustle a little bit more on the front end to get clients. I was like, oh, why isn't my phone ringing? Why don't people trust me yet? Because I've been a real estate agent for 5 seconds, you know? I don't know. I think I thought like clients would just like magically appear, which is funny to think about now.
You just reminded me that something that's kind of interesting is that at the beginning, it really is the hardest. By the time you are actually a rookie, you are most likely broke. Like,
Yeah.
you've gone through the studying and the licensing and you've waited for all of that to come in. And like, you probably, I mean, I could be wrong, but like, you probably haven't been working. I think that there's a lot of people that haven't been working at that point because they've been working on getting their license and everything. And so by the time that rolls around, you don't have the funds to spend on marketing, or if you do want to buy Zillow leads or something like that. So not only are you like hoping that that first person will trust you, but you're also kind of sweating a little bit, wondering when that paycheck is going to come. And so I definitely think that that rookie year is the hardest. It's really, really hard. And the people that make it past, not a lot of people make it past. A lot of people drop out, a lot of people quit. The people that do finally make it past, I think that, would you say that it gets easier?
I think for me, I don't know if it necessarily comes easier, but I don't like beat myself up as much as I did as a rookie because I was like, oh my gosh, my family depends on me. You know, my husband depends on me to like get this money in the door and whatever. And now I kind of like, I take the pressure off of like the lead generation. Like I take the money part of it out of it, right? At the end of the day, no matter what, I'll find a way to like get the resources I need to like be able to pay my bills and whatever.
As soon as I would close a deal, I would basically convince myself that I would never get another deal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's like a lot of like negative self-talk that happens in your rookie year because you're like, okay, now I need to like hold on to that money. Like it's never going to come again. And like that's just not true, right? Everybody needs to hear this, right? Yes, we're commission only people. We only make money
Mhm.
when we have closings. But like find those people and just like take care of them and like love on them however you can with whatever resources that you have. You don't have to spend a lot of money to love on your people, you know?
I think that there's so much power in like whatever you want to call it. I like to call it like the real estate gods. If I feel like nothing's really moving for me, I don't really have a lot of strong leads at the time. If I just put work into something, whether it's like doing 2 open houses in a weekend or working really hard to like organize my office, or whenever I find myself putting like a good amount of energy into some part of real estate, something comes out. Do you have that situation
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah. Like I just think once you convince yourself that no more clients are ever going to come, then like, yeah, you're right. No more clients are ever going to come. Like it's one of those like, what is it? Your mindset.
You're basically speaking it into existence.
Right. Like just work and do the things and things will come, clients will come out of the woodwork. And I like 100% believe that. And it's one of those things that during rookie year, our broker always said that. And I did not fully believe her until probably like 2 years later is when I finally was like, oh, okay. I get that.
Takes a little bit of blind faith, right?
Yeah, because I was like, yeah, yeah, I believe you. Like all the big motivational speakers, they make like a gajillion dollars a year to tell you to do what you already know that you have to do. You have to reach out to some people and you have to write some notes and you have to network and you have to, but like so many people just like wait for things to come to them. And I am one of them.
I think we all have our moments of that.
I took a look at one of another agents in my office is doing the Buffini Blitz. And I was like looking through it and I was like, these are all things like all of us need to be doing this. Like, not because it's like a paid program through Buffini, but because like that is the foundation of like building relationships with people.
That's so funny because I literally have my 2017 Buffini Success Tour notebook sitting on my desk from going.
Yeah.
He said a lot of things that I didn't not know. Like you said, like they're telling you stuff you already know to do. You just have to do it. And so the point is that it's motivational and that it's kick yourself in the butt and get started.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like one of the biggest things I learned in rookie year. You just have to freaking do it. Just do it. Do what you need to do. And like your broker will have ideas and just do it.
Yeah.
Like Nike. Thanks, Nike.
It's really good to have a good coach because that's so important to have someone that's kicking your butt. Who's going to suffer if we don't make sales? Just us, like no one else.
Right.
That was actually going to be my next question is what was the biggest thing you learned in your first year?
So another thing that I learned in my first year, and probably my favorite thing about the first year, was that you have to find a community of people that are there to like help you through it. If you don't have that at your brokerage, you need to go to another brokerage.
Or listen to this podcast.
Yeah, or listen to this podcast because like you have to have a community backing you and like cheering you on. Otherwise, like on the days that you don't want to do anything, you're just going to give yourself permission not to do anything. And if you have the community surrounding you and lifting you up, then you're more likely to do it, right? If I'm like, hey, Alex, I'm doing this today. You want to do it with me? Then you'll be like, yeah. And I feel like that made all the difference in our office.
A support group.
Yeah, we essentially had a support group with our rookie class.
And even if you don't feel like you have that at your brokerage, but maybe you don't want to switch it up, like I think it's really great to just follow on social media, follow a couple realtors that you admire. And just seeing that success it's inspiring, and that can be really helpful to cultivating your own business.
Yeah. So what was the biggest thing that you learned in your first year?
There are a lot of learning experiences, that happened for me in that first year. Rejection is something that I learned to handle a little bit better because it's really not personal at all. The first lead I had, the first person that was kind of in my pipeline and that I thought for sure I was going to be working with because I knew them through my sphere, totally ghosted me and worked with another agent. And I think it was because they saw me as being inexperienced, which frankly, I was. I took that to mean like, oh my gosh, I'm inexperienced and I will always be inexperienced and no one will ever want to be my first client. And that was really it's just so damaging when you talk to yourself that way. And eventually, I did get that first client and it snowballed and I got another one and another one. And now I feel really experienced and like equipped to handle a buyer or seller that comes my way. Think that like at the beginning, I kind of told myself that I was kind of a loser. Do you know what I mean? Like I could have been a lot nicer to myself and kind of let the process happen.
I totally have had that same kind of like, oh, why would anyone want to use you as their agent when they could use XYZ, anybody else?
Yeah. So I think that was a big learning experience. I think that I also didn't realize how much non real estate related things I was going to need to know. I remember when I got my first home inspection back feeling really unprepared.
Yeah,
Just so many things that we need to learn. As realtors, we wear so many hats: lender, appraiser, contractor, mold specialist, all of these things that we're expected to know. And really, in order to be a realtor, all you have to do is take a class and pass a test. First of all, that tells me like there are probably so many agents out there that are really not equipped to handle a transaction. But secondly, that just means that we have to like learn so much and kind of learn it quickly, because if you get a transaction, if you get a client, you need to be prepared to represent them to the best of your ability. I was fortunate enough to have an amazing mentor and to be able to learn those things really quickly. But that's something that I would definitely tell someone that's asking about like getting into a career of real estate.
absolutely.
So, what was your most nerve wracking experience in your first year?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. You go first then.
So, the first time I showed property was the worst. It was just the worst. Fortunately, it was with a very, very sweet client. And I went on to, sell her a property and also list one of her properties. And it flourished. It turned into referrals and all of that. So I just want you to know it had a happy ending, but it did not start off so great. She wanted to see land to build on. And I thought that showing land would be just as easy as showing houses. I did not realize that they did not have addresses that a GPS would take you to. And so we got super lost. Property after property I couldn't find because I didn't know what I was looking for. And I didn't really understand how land listings worked. And ultimately, also, it was the hottest day of the year. It was disgustingly hot. It was in the middle of August. That just kind of set the tone for it being kind of a crappy day. But where the beauty of this day peaked, we were driving down this long country road, and I'm thinking to myself like, "Oh my gosh, this is the worst day ever." And I don't know why she's still following you to this property, because both of you know that like you're not going to be able to find it. Like, why are you guys even doing this? And I was so in my head that I forgot to look for the street to turn onto. And so when I finally realized I had to turn on that street, it was basically too late, but I turned anyway, and we almost crashed into each other. And I cried the whole way home. And she was like, I think we should just try this another day. And I was like, okay, are you sure? I cried the whole way home. I was so disappointed in myself and I felt like a huge failure. And it was just the worst day. But hey, I ended up getting 3 sales out of it. That was my most nerve wracking experience. Did you cringe a little while I was telling that
I
story?
just was like giggling the whole time. So, well, because like I have so been there. Like, thank God for GPSs, but like, oh my gosh, in some of the areas where GPS doesn't really work that great, yeah, that's not fun. But yeah, while you were talking, I finally thought of my most nerve wracking experience. I was working with an investor and we were looking at houses, like, no joke, under $20,000 for like houses that are standing. So like our average sales price here is around probably 220. And so these houses are in pretty terrible condition. A lot of them don't.
They're barely standing.
Yeah, yeah, pretty terrible condition. So there was one house, and most of them are foreclosures. Most of them are, I mean, all of them are vacant. Most of them don't have lights. A lot of them have the like disclosure that you have to sign that says like you're not going to sue anybody if you like fall and break your leg or whatever. So we were going to a bunch of houses. We walked into one and there was a bunch of like trash and people's clothing. Like there was some clothing like hanging up in the living room. There were blankets and there were like takeout bags like from, convenience stores and that sort of thing. So like it kind of looks like there were squatters in the house. We were walking through and I kept being like, "Hello, hello, realtor here showing the house."
And you have to like, as much as you're like cringing and like freaking out on the inside, you have to maintain your like professionalism,
Right,
right?
like, you can't be like, "Oh gosh, there's squatters," because like, then if there are squatters there, like, okay, you can't really do anything about it, right? Like, you just have to be as nice as possible and hope that they're not dangerous squatters, you know? So we're walking through, and the house doesn't have any power. It's super dark. Like all of the shades are drawn. It definitely is a haunted house. Definitely. And I just was in my head and I was like, and this is how I die. This is how I die. Like I'm just going to die in this house.
Your life is flashing before your
Yeah.
eyes. No big
Yeah. And like
deal.
it was totally fine. There was nobody in the house. I mean, I think there definitely were squatters who like came back after we left. That was just one of those moments where I was like, "Man, maybe I shouldn't be doing this as like a lady, you know? Like maybe only guys should be doing these ones." But even then, like it still is nerve-wracking no matter what. So, I was like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be doing that anymore after we closed on that house." He didn't end up buying that house. He bought another one.
Is this the one where he bought the house that had bullet holes in the
Yes.
side of the house? This one is worse. You're right.
Yeah, well, because I was like, "I'm gonna die for sure."
Yeah.
Where that one is just like, "Okay, it's bullet holes," you know?
Yeah. No big deal.
Oh, like, at that point, I didn't have pepper spray, I didn't it was the first time I ever thought about, like, concealed carrying because I was like, "Okay, now I'm, like, actually scared." It was all fine. I was just in my own head.
But we do risk a lot. It can be a really dangerous situation. And I think that we should leave that topic for another episode because I think that's something definitely worth talking
Yeah, I
about.
think so too.
What was your favorite thing about your rookie year?
So, 2 things. The first thing, the people that I met in our office and in our rookie class, like life-changing people that are friends forever. That would be the number 1 thing. And then the number 2 thing would be so my expectations for myself and my success in real estate were very low. I was hoping for like 1 or 2 transactions in my first year. I just wanted to like get my feet wet and hope that I made enough money to, not bankrupt my family. And then it like all just worked out. Like I had way more transactions than I was hoping for at the beginning of the year. And so kind of like exceeding my own expectations was like it felt really good at the end of that year. And so like that sounds selfish, I think, like, oh, pat on my back, like I did so great. But
I have to stop you. That is not selfish at all. You worked really, really hard and you deserve to feel like you did a great job because you did a great job. I just don't think that like we as women apologize a lot for feeling like good about ourselves in that way.
so there we go. I'm patting myself on the back and really thankful that I had a year that, like, first of all, didn't bankrupt my family. And second of all, like, I actually made more money than I used to make. And that was super empowering. And one day I'm going to beat my husband's income, but that wasn't a rookie year thing to happen. So that's in the future. I would say those two things, the people that I met and exceeding my own expectations for myself.
I think that I gained a lot of confidence that year. I think starting off, I felt like, who's going to hire me? How am I going to help someone? Oh my gosh, they can't find out that like I'm actually not good at this. I have to like convince them that like I am good at this when I'm really not because that's just how I talk to myself. I remember probably like 6 or 7 months in, I had 1 month where I had 8 transactions in 1 month and I was so busy that month. That month made me feel like, wow, I am capable of so much more than I give myself credit for. That was a great feeling. That's what motivates me now, even being in a new market and kind of having to start from scratch again. That feeling right there, that month, I always think about. That was probably my favorite thing that came out of my rookie year. Getting to meet you was swell. I mean, I got to be honest, guys, rookie year is hard. Like, it's really hard, but it's so worth it. I think Allison and I can both vouch for
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. You have to, go through the dirt of rookie year to be able to come out on the other side and bloom to the beautiful flower you're meant to be.
Or cactus. You can be a cactus too if you don't want to be a flower.
Oh, well, yeah. So, anything else that you want to add?
I think that you should put a lot of importance on the brokerage that you start with because that can really affect, your first year. We'll do another episode about that, picking your team and your brokerage and all of that stuff.
Make sure that you join us in our call before showing community on Facebook and follow us on Instagram at call before showing. And we will put a post in there for everyone to talk to us about your rookie year and one of your biggest learnings in your first year.
Honestly, I want to hear about the things that you learned, but I mostly want to hear about your rookie year horror stories because I just want to know that I did not have the worst one.
Yeah, so we will definitely post that in the community, and we look forward to checking back in for our next episode.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll chat with you soon.
Bye.
Bye.